Good evening, you're watching the news from the Sultan of Oman television. First, the headlines. Ukraine says Russians are trying to storm Mariupol plant and strike more areas. Acme company receives the first ever international certification for its commercial production of green hydrogen and ammonia through its project in the Special Economic Zone at Duqm. And the foreign assets in the Central Bank of Oman witness a growth exceeding 7 billion Omani riyals by the end of February 2022. Those are the headlines, and now for the news in detail. An advisor to Ukraine's presidential office said Russian forces attacked a steel plant in the shattered Ukrainian port city of Mariupol today, apparently seeking to eliminate the last pocket of Ukrainian resistance in the strategic city the Kremlin claims its military has otherwise seized. Oleksiy Arestovich said the enemy is trying to completely suppress resistance of the defenders of Mariupol in the area of Azovstal. The assault was an estimated 1,000 civilians sheltered in the Azovstal plant alongside the remaining Ukrainian fighters, while Russian forces press their offensive elsewhere in the eastern Donbass region in fierce Ukrainian counterattacks. Arestovich said that the Russian forces had resumed airstrikes on the massive seaside plant and were trying to storm it, which would represent a reversal from an order Russian President Vladimir Putin gave 2 days earlier. Ukrainian officials have estimated that about 2,000 of their troops are inside the plant, along with the civilians sheltering in the facility's underground tunnels. Arestovich said the Ukrainian forces were trying to counter the new attacks. A Taliban official said a bombing at a mosque and a religious school in northern Afghanistan has killed at least 33 people, including students of the religious school. Zabihullah Mujahid, the Taliban's deputy culture and information minister, said the bombing in the town of Imam Sahib in Kunduz province also wounded another 43 people, many of them students. No one immediately claimed the responsibility for the bombing, but Afghanistan's Daesh Group affiliate has claimed a series of bombings that happened on Thursday, the worst of which was an attack on a mosque in northern Marizi Sharif that killed at least 12 Muslim worshippers and wounded scores more. A 2-month ceasefire has given aid groups a chance to step up aid to Yemen's hungry millions, but malnutrition ravaging children is projected to worsen in fighting returns or humanitarian funding does not pick up. The Norwegian Refugee Council has been able to give aid to 12,000 people in one district of Hajj province that has not been reached for more than 3 years. More than 7 years of conflict in Yemen have devastated the economy, displaced millions, and pushed food prices out of the reach of many. Spiking global grain and commodity prices are adding further strain. Richard Reagan of the World Food Programme, which is trying to feed half of Yemen's 30 million people in one of its largest ever programs, said the situation is not good. According to pre-ceasefire UN estimates, 538,000 are severely malnourished. The UN's March data showed hunger and malnutrition have worsened this year, and the body projected that between June and December, those unable to secure minimum nutrition will hit a new high of 19 million, up from 17.4 million currently. The number of those facing famine-like conditions could increase from 31,000 to 161,000 people. Beijing is on alert after 10 middle school students tested positive for COVID-19 in what city officials said was an initial round of testing. City officials suspended classes in the school for a week following the positive test result yesterday. The Chinese capital also reported 4 other confirmed cases that day that were counted separately. Mainland China reported 24,326 new community-transmitted infections today, with the vast majority of them asymptomatic cases in Shanghai, with 12 new deaths. The World Health Organization said between March 2020 and March 2022, the average number of global deaths from COVID-19 were 6% higher on the weekends compared to weekdays throughout the pandemic. The highest absolute increase in weekend COVID-19 deaths was in the United States, followed by Brazil, the UK, and Canada. Only Germany reported significantly fewer average deaths at the weekend compared to weekdays. Meanwhile, the U.S. Center for Disease and Control and Prevention said it had dropped its do not travel COVID-19 recommendations for about 90 international destinations. And a new study suggests that unvaccinated people infected with the Omicron variant are unlikely to develop immune responses that will protect them against other variants of the coronavirus. Destructive U.S. Southwest fires have burned dozens of homes in northern Arizona and put numerous small villages in New Mexico in the path of danger as wind-fueled flames chewed up wide swaths of tinder dry forest and grassland, and plumes of smoke filled the sky. More than 1,600 firefighters were battling 6 blazes in New Mexico and 3 in Arizona that have consumed more than 100 square miles of timber and brush. Just east of Santa Fe, New Mexico, ranchers and other rural inhabitants were abruptly told to leave by law enforcement. Fires also were burning in Colorado, where new evacuations were ordered west of Colorado Springs, but there were no immediate reports of structures lost. With no air support or crew working directly on the fire lines, there was explosive growth in the size and number of new small fires in the U.S. Southwest yesterday. Still to come in a news bulletin. The 5th edition of Taaroof event introduces Islam to non-Muslim communities and residents in the Sultanate of Oman. Acme, a leading company in the renewable energy sector, received the first ever international certification for its commercial production of green hydrogen and ammonia. The project received the international certification after passing the evaluation and inspection process on the production and transportation methods in addition to hydrogen applications in the project. With aims to attract green hydrogen industry and localize the technology, the Special Economic Zone Authority at Duqm dedicated around 200 square kilometers for this project. The authority expects the project will produce around 1,000 tons of green ammonia in its early stages. The volume of foreign assets in the Central Bank of Oman witnessed a growth by 10.7% by the end of February 2022 to reach more than 7 billion Omani rials compared to the same period in 2021. The National Center for Statistics and Information pointed out that the total volume of local liquidity rose by 2.2% to reach more than 20.3 billion rials. The center added that the actual exchange rate of the Omani rial witnessed an increase by 4.2% to record 106 points compared to the same period in 2021. The total number of small and medium-sized enterprises in the Sultanate of Oman rose by 42.7% by the end of March 2022 to reach 73,041. The statistics issued by the National Center for Statistics and Information pointed out that the Governorate of Musandam came at the top in terms of SMEs growth by 102%, followed by the Governorate of Worcester in second place by 64%, and the Governorate of Dhofar in the third position by 60.7%. The Muscat Stock Exchange main index declined in last week's trading to close at 4,235 points, recording a decrease by 4 points after the enlisted companies announced the financial results for the first quarter of the current year. The trading value of last week declined to reach 18.8 million Omani rials, and the number of implemented deals also recorded decline from 5,016 to 4,136. The Ministry of Endowments and Religious Affairs organized the 5th edition of Taaroof event, which introduces Islam to the people of other faiths. More details in the following report.
Aiming to introduce Islam and give acquaintance to non-Muslim communities residing in the Sultanate of Oman, the Ministry of Endowments and Religious Affairs held the 5th edition of its annual Taaroof event under the theme Custodian on Earth.
The entire world is going through a difficult time at the moment. There's so many distress, there's so much instability, and it's a very important time for us to introduce the world to the concept of being a custodian, which is a concept that was mentioned in the Holy Quran for 1,400 years ago. And this concept brings people back to their role and responsibility of taking care of this planet that we have been given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
The social gathering included a dialogue with new Muslims to share their experiences of converting to the Islamic faith.
My journey in Islam is really not easy. It's really difficult. It's struggling. But Alhamdulillah, right now, the feeling is amazing after releasing everything, after accepting, after putting Allah first before me and before everything else. Alhamdulillah for the amazing feeling I have right now.
As I remember on that day that I convert to Islam, the reason is there is one question that left in me, that is where I will go when I die. Because we don't know when it will happen to us. So on that day, I felt tired like that, everything. So then no one tell me about, okay, come to Islam. Islam is good like this. No one. Just I feel on that day, where am I? I'm in Oman. So which religion is here? Though it's Islam. And after that, I asked one brother, how can I enter in Islam? Then they take me in the Sultan Qaboos Grand Mosque. After that, take the Shahada. And alhamdulillah, I am a Muslim now.
The event comprised Islamic chants, an exhibition, and a cultural competition on the pillars of Islam. The Araf event endeavors to spread the true spirit and values of unity, solidarity, and peace of the Islamic faith. For the Sultanate of Oman Television, Saleh Bukhalfan al-Rahbi, Muscat.
Sultanate of Oman joins the globe today in participating in celebrating the World Book and Copyright Day. The celebration aims at raising awareness of the importance of reading and its role in disseminating knowledge. The celebration also aims at recognizing the value of books as one of the most powerful tools in history and as the medium for knowledge, culture, and human civilization. This is the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Ukraine says Russians are trying to storm Mariupol plant and strike more areas. Acme Company receives the first ever international certification for its commercial production of green hydrogen and ammonia through its project in the Special Economic Zone at Duqm. The foreign assets in the Central Bank of Oman witness a growth exceeding 7 billion Omani riyals by the end of February 2022. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and studio, it's good night and stay safe.